everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Realtor Talk with me, Lloyd, rosales-cocks. Today I have the CEO of LuxuryPropertycom on the podcast, Jason Hayes. Thanks for coming on, Jason.
Well, thank you very much for your invitation. It was a long commute from me.
I came all the way into the office myself. Why don't you introduce yourself to everyone watching and listening and explain who you are and what you do.
Hi guys, I'm the founder and CEO of LuxuryPropertycom. I am perhaps the funniest chap on the planet, never to have his own stand-up show, and every now and again I do a little bit of real estate.
I like that introduction. That's the best one we've had on the podcast. So talking about real estate, obviously that's the industry we're in and the topic I talk about most on this podcast. What got you into the industry in the first place?
Oh gosh, really good question. Money. I suppose is the answer. When I went up to university, should I look at that?
Yeah, you can
look at you. Yeah. When I went up to university, I didn't have any money, and I started thinking about how to make money.
Yeah.
And then eventually started renting out rooms in the student house where we were living, and then ultimately ended up buying a student house through Myris mortgages. I don't quite know if you remember what a Myris mortgage is. You're probably way too young. So basically, started buying properties using these mortgages, really cheap properties. So I'd use my student loan as a deposit, or part of it, and then borrow money from friends, and then that was a deposit. Then I took a Myris mortgage, and sort of the income from the students would pay for the mortgage, and then I would have surplus money. So for me, it was always about the Duke of Westminster. He was always the number one chap on the Sunday Times Richness. He was always the one who was the wealthiest chap in the United Kingdom at the time, and his money was made in property, and for me it was a means to an end. So the surplus revenue paid for my university tuition, the need to make money, and then I was like, okay, well if I rent these rooms out, I could produce surplus income.
Yeah, I think a few people do that, or they have parents, who purchase property and then rent out the rooms to pay for their property. But did you have that kind of business mindset from that age? Because a lot of people going to university would not be even considering that. They just have a good time.
I'm a serial entrepreneur, apparently. It's a dreadful phrase. I don't like it. It sort of, for me, it sort of suggests somebody that can't stick it at one thing. But my first business was with my sister, and we would buy boxes of chocolate, so small packets of chocolate, and we would go door to door selling the chocolate from the boxes. And we can only have been, I don't know, she was 2 years older than me, so probably maybe 10 or 12, and I'd been 10, she'd been 12. And I bought the chocolate wholesale, and then basically would sell it door to door and make a profit. I ended up buying her out of the business, so that was my first sort of merger and acquisition in terms of buying her out of the business. And I've always had that sort of entrepreneurial mindset. I'm very conscious that I'm very driven, and very early in my career I recognised that I possibly don't take instruction well, and genuinely possibly wouldn't fit well into a corporate structure where there was layers and tiers of management.
Yeah.
So I quickly discovered that I quite like working for myself, and I quite like building and creating companies. And that's what I'm good at, apparently.
Yeah,
and comedy, of course.
And that story kind of really resonated with me, actually, because even when I was at school, I used to bake fairy cakes and then sell them as well. So no, it's interesting to see people who kind of do the same kind of thing.
I think it's you buy, you sell, you make a profit. Yeah. It's pretty business does not need to be complicated, and I think sometimes the it's the angle sometimes in terms of what is your approach, and for me I've done psychometric testing. So throughout my university career, I was meant to go to the Foreign Office. So if I had done what I was meant to do in inverted commas, I'd be working in the Foreign Commonwealth Office, and I didn't. And my psychometric testing was that of somebody who's possibly very, very driven, and who sort of does well in chaos, and so I know that my DNA, I know I'm very sort of attuned to what how I wouldn't work well in a corporate environment. So I've technically never had a job.
I wouldn't say that. Yeah.
No, but what I mean by never had a job is I've technically never
worked for anyone. Yeah.
So in my sort of professional career, as a youngster, of course, I've worked in school holidays and that sort of thing at university, but post-career, I technically haven't worked for anybody.
Okay, that's
pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's good going, isn't it?
So one would say that I wasn't unemployed, I was unemployable.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting as well. That you rode that path, and a lot of people find that kind of path scary almost, to think, oh, I don't have a secure start. But I guess you're goal driven, and you're mentioning the Duke of Westminster there, and the rich list. I know that you personally managed to get onto that. Rich list. How did it feel to kind of reach that goal?
Sort of huge frustration for me. So I'm a very private person. At the time when it happened, everybody was busy congratulating me, and everybody was, and I think it was 3 or 4 years or whatever I was on it for. But I hated it because it was distinctly private, and when it came out, I complained because I thought it was an invasion of my privacy. And to be quite honest with you, I think it's just one of those things where I let our success speak for itself. So I don't need to tell the world that we're the best digital destination in the Middle East, because I know that our success is doing that for us. So when that happened, it was really interesting. Everyone changed. So I went from being Jason or Jace to he's the guy who's got all the money, but he's this, that, and the other. I didn't particularly like that. So my cloak of invisibility was removed a little bit.
Okay.
I found it affected the business really badly. So at the time I was acquiring real estate, buying portfolios, and my negotiating power went.
So they knew that you had
so basically the ability to hide behind the corporate veil, and the ability to sort of to do what I did well was a little bit removed, to be fair. But came as a big shock. Nobody ever calls you and say, hey, we're doing this. So it came as a big shock, and a number of my professional advisors were like, oh, wow, well done, that's great. And I probably was, I was the one sat there going, oh, this is a disaster. I've worked so hard to keep everything private and slowly build a very successful company. And now they felt that it was very much in the public domain. And you've got to remember as well that back in 2006, we weren't quite as digital savvy as we are now. So Twitter hadn't been invented.
I think maybe Facebook was just starting.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Instagram obviously was. So just a different time, and it was interesting.
Interesting to come. Yeah, because you're still in the newspaper then, rather than whatever the internet.
It was interesting, and then of course everyone thought it was just it wasn't. Most people would be like, oh, wow, whereas I was like, oh, gosh, it just felt like an invasion of my privacy.
Did it affect any kind of friendships at all in that way? No, you still had a close people. Okay.
Look, my best friends are the guys I played rugby with at university. We're just that much older now, and slower and fatter and greyer, and you can count your best friends on one hand, and that necessarily changes.
Okay, that's a good thing then, because sometimes people say it changes the relationship that you have with people, but it's good you get that.
Yeah, no, it was good.
That's good. Yeah, and in terms of, you're talking about obviously the digital destination, LuxuryProperty.com. Why did you decide to set up this business in particular?
PropertyandHomes.com is a company that I own in the United States, and that started off as the concept of I wanted a digital destination for the sale of homes, like a property portal, a digital property portal. Clubeasy.com back in 1995, I'm showing my age here, back in 1995 was probably the first digital entity into the student accommodation space. And it was hugely successful with undergraduates looking for accommodation online, applying online, etc. Back in in the late 90s. When were you born?
I was in 88.
Okay, so we're okay, we're on the same page. So basically that, for me back then, I've always been driven by digital. With PropertyandHomes.com, the concept quite simply was of a digital portal for the sale of distressed housing stock, actually. So in 2008, the United States collapsed, and the whole idea was a portal for the sale of distressed housing stock. That business model quickly changed, and I ended up buying the distressed housing stock. So Property and Homes went from being a digital sort of concept to actually an investment company buying distressed real estate in the United States. So there was still a sort of, for me, there was still that sense of I haven't achieved what I wanted to achieve in the digital sense.
Okay.
I felt that real estate is very much, the marketing of real estate could be incredibly profitable if done properly, and that there was huge gaps in the marketing. So, by example, most of the large brands that you and I might know, and your audience will know, don't have geographical position on a global scale. They might be very, very strong in certain areas of the world, or certain regions or territories, however you wish to describe it, but they won't have a global presence everywhere.
Yeah.
And there exists, at this point in time, no one brand, global property brand, that actually exists everywhere in the digital sphere.
Okay.
So Knight Frank, by example, very, very strong in the United Kingdom, very, very strong in parts of Africa, and indeed they have a presence here in the Middle East. In the United States, maybe not as strong as they want to be, and certainly in the African subcontinent, the Indian subcontinent, Asia Pacific, they won't have that sort of positioning. And if you mention Knight Frank to people, they won't know what it means. Now, as an Englishman, I know what Knight Frank means, but it doesn't have that global positioning. And the same can be said for any one of the big property brands, but also the same can be said for any one of the big property portals.
Yes.
So, by example, Rightmove, who are enormous in the United Kingdom, absolutely enormous, millions and millions of hits every month, are not known in Africa. They are not known in Asia Pacific. They are not known on the Indian subcontinent. They are not known in the United States, South America, etc.
Yeah.
But they're incredibly successful. They're incredibly big in their sphere of influence.
Yes.
And what I wanted to do, and what I'm working on, what we're trying to do with LuxuryProperty.com is to create a true digital destination for the sale of luxury homes. Now, you're in one side of the business, so you're in the sort of the Dubai private client team on the brokerage side, but the core business is actually the digital space, where we want to market the world's finest homes, where eventually we want to be a global brand recognised as a destination that you would go to digitally for the world's finest homes, quite simply. And by naming the company LuxuryProperty.com, by using a keyword-rich domain name as the company name, that's what we're trying to do. Now, in terms of why, people will say, well, why? You're independently wealthy, you're successful, you've built 2 companies and successfully exited 2 companies. Why would you go again? Well, that's the curse of the serial entrepreneur. That's the thing that gets you up in the morning and gets you going. When I sold my first company, I bought a beautiful house in Barbados, and I spent 6 months, probably, maybe a bit less, my wife will correct me on this, scuba diving in the morning and playing golf in the afternoon. playing golf in the morning and scuba diving in the afternoon. I would swap it around sometimes.
Yeah.
After about 6 months, I was absolutely bored to tears. The challenges, the day-to-day decision making. In my life at the moment, I probably make 1,000 decisions a day. 1,000 decisions. I love it. I love that. You know, we need an answer on this, or we need to do something on this, or there's strategy that comes with owning the company and being at the forefront of things. Absolutely love. For me, it might sound really weird, but it's a high, you know, and it gets to 7 o'clock at night and I'm still at the office, having been here at 6 o'clock this morning. You know, it's something that just drives you.
Yeah.
And when I set up the company, it was like, you know, I want to control that digital space. I want to see if I can be a success in that digital space. And we know we are. You know, only 18 months into our journey, we've been courted by a very, very large company who are trying to persuade us to sell to them. And we're not, so I can't mention who they are because I'm on an NDA, but only 18 to 2 years into the journey, we received that approach because somebody saw what we were trying to achieve and thought, gosh, that's going to work. It will.
Because it's a global thing rather than the niche individual market.
Well, look, luxury property is an asset class. It's a physical asset class that exists in every city in every country of the world, no matter where you are. We market homes in South America, we market properties in Paris, we market properties in India, we market properties in Vietnam and Sri Lanka. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, there will always be luxury property. Always. It might be a penthouse, it could be a beachfront villa, it could be a golf course facing mansion. There will always be luxury property. And if you're going to move to Paris, how do you search for luxury property? Where do you go? You're going to go to Google, and then organically we will be number one. So hopefully you'll come to us, and then we will lead you through that process. But at the moment, where do you actually?
It's true, when you search on, like, if you don't know the other markets, the first thing you would do is go to Google and see what portals come up for that particular country, and then you have no idea how they work, how to find anything.
Yeah.
So you want to just be in front of someone, an advisor, for example, who can give you that advisory professionally for that particular market.
And what we're trying to do is provide a platform for people to do that.
Yeah.
And ultimately, when the new website comes up and the new e-commerce functionality comes on, if you are a real estate agent in Vietnam, by example, and you are selling luxury homes in Vietnam, you will have the opportunity of uploading your luxury homes to our destination, to our platform, paying by digitally. So the whole process will be digital. There will be no paperwork whatsoever. The entire process will be digital, and marketing of and advertising of those homes in that country of origin, and that will be across the world. And we're scaling it organically. So a little bit like how we did our SEO optimization, we did it organically. At the start of the process, I said we're not going to pay per click, and it was really painful because everyone wants you to pay per click so that you can expand quicker. But that's a foundation stone built on sand in many respects. Whereas we said, no, we're going to invest the money into organic, unique content, into optimized SEO, and we're going to make sure that the construction, the wireframes of what we're doing work in terms of the optimizations. And a little bit like our organic listings of new real estate, we went from 0 to $6 billion worth of real estate listings across 25 countries. I'm hoping that we take that from 0 to 222 countries within the next 3 years, and that the value of real estate obviously will be in the hundreds of billions or indeed trillions.
So you mentioned like the 222 countries. Why did you decide to start here in Dubai?
I'm allergic to tax.
Okay.
So we wanted to find a jurisdiction that was very tax advantageous, that supported entrepreneurs, that was a hub for startups, and that would provide us with the lifestyle that we wanted to live. So we looked long and hard at various options, but Dubai was the one that came up. At the same time, I wanted the business to be self-funding. So by having the brokerage company is profitable, as you were aware, it's very profitable, and that goes towards funding the tech side of the prop tech side of what we're doing. So yeah, many answers, but in a snapshot, pretty much there. I love Dubai.
Yeah.
First came here in 2000 and I think it's 2003, and just fell in love with the city. Fell in love with the aspirational aspect of it. So basically, nothing is unachievable in Dubai, and with the people whom we do business with, and with the government entities who we are involved with, and indeed with the leadership here in this incredible city, in this incredible emirate, and the wider United Arab Emirates, you've just got. It's like a paradise for entrepreneurs in many respects, because it's got everything that you would want if you try to build and scale a business.
Yeah, definitely. They're trying to open it up even more, aren't they, at the moment? You were mentioning about the paying for stuff online and paying for it easily without having to use bank accounts and stuff. What about what do you think the effect of blockchain technology and these kind of things are on this kind of business in real estate?
Well, I think it's going to be immense. So I think on the transactional side of real estate, when you get to the point of somebody actually physically buying a property, I genuinely see that COVID-19 will be a point at which people realise particularly off-plan real estate, needs to move forward in terms of transactional process and become more blockchain. So, by example, I'm really surprised that you can't buy an apartment in Dubai off-plan digitally without having to sign a contract, send a contract, issue a check, or wire a payment. I'm so incredibly surprised that entire process hasn't been digitalised. Incredibly surprised. Conversely, if you look at buying a Range Rover as an example, I can go onto the Range Rover website.
Yeah.
I can choose the car, choose the colour, choose the engine, choose the interior, choose the dog guard, whatever it might be. I can then see that on a 3D display, visualised on video, of what my new car will look like. I can then press enter and get a costing for that new car, and then I can then enter my credit card payments and actually make a deposit to reserve that car.
Yeah.
Conversely, we should be able to do the same with an apartment. An apartment building in downtown Dubai, we should be able to look at that apartment building. We should be able to see the kitchens in light brown, dark brown, cream or white. We should be able to see the flooring in French grey or indeed oak. We should be able to see what the apartment might look like from another view. We should be able to see what it looks like with furniture or with curtains. All of this is possible. All of this is absolutely possible. We should be able to book that apartment online. So we should be able to say, I'm going to take apartment number 03, press click, press enter, and that should throw up for us the contract by which we're entering into. And we should be able to put in our credit card or indeed whatever payment system we wish to use to reserve or place a deposit on the reservation for that apartment. And people look at me as if I'm mad and say, there's a huge difference between buying an apartment and buying a Range Rover. And the answer I'm going to give them is there's not. There's absolutely not. But for one, it's a luxury item, the Range Rover is a luxury item, and okay, the price point may be different. But with the apartments, when you're buying off-plan particularly, you're buying on an investment, which is a lot different to a personal end user. For an investor, that investor could be in Singapore, that investor could be in Hong Kong, could be in Cape Town, or indeed could be in Buenos Aires. He could be anywhere in the world, but he wants to come and buy a property in Dubai. He wants to look at Dubai as an investment destination because of the favourable taxation regime, because of the favourable yield returns, because of the favourable potential capital uplift, because it's the most incredible city on the planet, because of all of the infrastructure and everything else. But they physically can't do it, and they want to. Yes. And my clients want to. They want to be able to look at everything on the screen. They want to be able to see the view from different sides. They want to be able to understand how far it is from that apartment to the metro, from that apartment to the movie theatre, what restaurants are in close proximity. All of this can be delivered digitally. All of it can. But in Dubai, we've just hit a roadblock and it's not happening. And the digital space for real estate, and I say this to a lot of people and they get really upset with me when I say it, but the digital space for real estate, in many respects, hasn't changed much since I wrote my first website in 1995.
I agree. I don't think technology's really moved very, very quickly in real estate. If you look at the websites, like you say, from that kind of time, it hasn't really moved. I think this COVID period has pushed it forward a little bit, but it hasn't made massive changes that I thought it might do. Maybe over the next year we might see more. But I definitely agree, people could easily buy online. I think the problem is information. Yeah. So, like you said, they want to see the view, they want to see the different options. At the moment, all you get is just some prices, this is the payment plan.
I think
that's it. Really.
The problem rests with the developers.
Yeah.
So the developers are property developers. They're very good at building things out of concrete and glass, and not necessarily very good at prop tech. And what they hold the drawings, the plan, the unique and privileged access to all of the information that one needs. And it's going to take a visionary. It's going to take somebody to come in and go, you've got a brand new tower. Allow us to build the IT technology around digitally marketing that tower properly, so that you can go to floor number 5 and walk into unit number 5A4 and see the floor plan and see everything. But one has to do that without wearing incredibly large goggles and VR and this, that and the other. It's got to be delivered in such a way where it works. That your buying client, your digital client, is the gentleman or the lady who sat having their toast and marmalade and their cup of coffee and they're at the kitchen table with their laptops, having breakfast, going through and making a real estate investments. And I'm very, very conscious of that, and that's what drives us. And to use it for LuxuryPropertycom, what we're constantly trying to do is add value through the website. Now we're in the luxury hemisphere, and it's a little bit more difficult, and because it's an emotional buy, you can't buy emotionally. I think this is the point. There's a clear differential between what is an investment acquisition, which is based on yield, it's based on capital return, it's based on void levels, it's based on renting, and a personal acquisition, which is based on I love the view or I love the master bathroom, whatever it might be.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. I was thinking about this as well the other day. Obviously what you're talking about would remove the need for like a physical broker. You're just using the website. So that could be a threat to people's livelihoods, which might be a reason why it's not been pushed forward in terms of that. But as a business, it would make sense to reduce staff costs, wouldn't it?
Look, I get that, and sometimes, I gave a speech recently at a conference on this very subject, and I think, AI and digital is only going to take you sometimes so far in the process. And on the investment side of things, I get the point that client might be doing all of that, having gone through a period of private client advisory. So he may have been talking to an investment advisor and then goes back into the website and does the process automatically. I don't think blockchain and the ability to remotely and digitally transact should be at the expense of a real estate broker. Yeah. I think you still need a human being to say to you, hey, you know what, this is a great investment opportunity for you. The valuation principles here are great. The value proposition is fantastic. And humans need that but also it shouldn't take 30 days to complete a purchase, or 60 days or 90 days. Complex, cumbersome, difficult, archaic approach to selling real estate. And we've just started using DocuSign, haven't we? How many of our clients DocuSign contracts now? We're probably running at 90% of our clients are using DocuSign. It doesn't mean that they're not reading the contract. It doesn't mean that they're not understanding the terms of the contract. But what it does mean is they don't have to print, sign, scan, send. They get an opportunity to go through it, understand it, analyse it, come back to us with any questions, and then go click, 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 and it does it automatically. And that's the point that I'm making in terms of real estate. I think we genuinely, in 10 years from now, when I'm a full-time golfer and just taking things easy, people will be buying real estate digitally through platforms. I'm quite convinced of that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the future for the industry. Even though you said previously it hasn't changed much in the last few decades, I think it will move forward as people and the younger generation start to be the ones who are investing.
2020 to 2030 is going to be key in that arena, I'm quite sure.
Okay, so I also wanted to ask you, we're talking about starting up a business, and I usually do this with all my guests. I ask for kind of the top 5 based on who they are. So as a serial entrepreneur, what would you give as a kind of top 5 tips to anyone starting a business?
Oh wow, gosh, don't. Think about it, think again, really give it some thought, and then don't. I'm joking. Top 5 tips. Firstly, surround yourself with people that are better than you are. So I've used that model across all of my companies. My finance director is significantly better at doing accounts than I am. My IT director is significantly better at doing IT and tech development than I am. My managing director is significantly, he might hear this, so I won't say that, but Andrew is significantly better at doing things than I am. Surrounding yourself with excellent people and having them buy into the business, creating that sense of a family where they become stakeholders in the company is absolutely key. I think secondly, the ability, so that would be number 1, surround yourself with excellent people. How many do you want? 5?
Yeah.
Ouch. So I suppose the second thing would be stay on message in terms of constantly review what you as an individual are doing within the business, and making sure that the business is going in the direction that you want it to go. Many things happen to companies. COVID is a classic example, and that ability to pivot while staying on message. So you will see that our brokerage adopted a strategic decision to proceed towards more affordable luxury, because we saw the world was contracting. People always need somewhere to live, thankfully, but we saw that as an organisation we needed to be affordable luxury again. So it was staying on message and staying on vision, but also having that opportunity to pivot would be my second thing. Having a moral compass would probably be my third. So not losing sight of the emotions of being of employing people, but also the emotions of running a company. So having a good moral compass, in accordance with the letter of the contract, the position should be X. And sometimes it's not always as black and white as that. And sometimes your moral compass needs to be on course, so that you're coming, you're being true to yourself and to your own sort of principles. Was that 3?
Yeah, I think that's 3 now. Yeah.
Top things to do for an organisation. Anyone setting up a business should enjoy the process. process. I think the moment you as an individual doubt yourself, you have problems. So I think that sort of your own well-being is hugely important, and making sure that well-being extends not just to your physical well-being but also to your mental health.
Have you ever had doubts yourself in knowing this business? Never.
Never, and it's bizarre, really, because I should. When COVID happened, Andrew was brilliant. We talk about surrounding ourselves with excellent people. Mm-hmm. When COVID happened, I was a little bit sort of like, gosh, this could be interesting. And Andrew was very much about, okay, crisis management, we need to think about X, Y, Z, W, we need to think about what's going to happen, taking a geopolitical view about what's happening, taking a local view, a national view, a regional view, an international view, such as the extent of our business activities. And I think, to say that I've never had a doubt might sound super obnoxious, and I don't mean it to sound super obnoxious at all. Did I think we could come into this market and achieve our positioning, our market positioning, after 2.5 years of training? Absolutely not. I thought it would be a much longer route. Our route to success would be much quicker than I thought it would be. Okay. Did I think we would fail? No. So I think because we got the foundation stones right, because we got the basis of the company right. Has it been a challenge? Yeah. But anybody who's starting a business, or indeed anybody who's running a business, it's a challenge. Every single day is a challenge. Without a shadow of a doubt, every single day is a challenge. And sometimes those challenges come at you thick and fast. And at no point in time do you ever think, I've got this.
Yeah.
I've got this.
Every day is a different
thing. And I do remember back in 2007, just before I sort of finalised that I was going to sell my group of companies in the United Kingdom. And I remember going into the office and having nothing to do, which was a very strange feeling. And it was so well structured, and we'd achieved everything that we pretty much wanted to achieve. And I remember what that felt like. I didn't like it, and I didn't like it. I wasn't needed, and I've yet to get that feeling here at LuxuryProperty.com. I've yet to get that. We're a small little company, and we're not management heavy at all. So you're very, as you know, we're very hands-on, sleeves rolled up, and we're very, very hands-on. So I've never really had a doubt. I think I've sometimes had I probably need to go and have a round of golf and get away from the office, but not often. And I think sometimes I've had that. I wonder if I should just take the offer. This large company that I'm talking about. Yeah. I do wonder if I should just, here you go. I'll retire.
But you haven't finished what you want to do, right?
That's really personal for me. Yeah. I think that's very. I genuinely believe that we can become a digital destination for the marketing of the world's finest homes. And I genuinely believe that companies far and wide will market their homes on our digital destination and pay us digitally to do so, with the leads being sent directly to them, and that model will be an incredible success in the luxury space. I've got one more, haven't I?
Yeah, one more. Yeah.
My fourth piece of advice would be very conscious of the impact that owning and running a business has on your family. So my wife's very understanding, and my children know that that this is my third child in some respects. But it's not a 9-to-5 job, and sometimes that can be issues. Sometimes I've always tried to make sure that it's family first, second, third, then the business, and I'm really conscious that sometimes it might not be. Sometimes it's I'm late for supper because I just had to do that conference call, or I'm late for a sort of a family event because I've just flown in, or I've just done something and I'm late, sort of thing. So I think it's if you're setting up a new business, your entire family have to
buy into
yeah.
it. Really.
Well, this business exists because of my wife.
Okay.
This business, LuxuryPropertycom, as a concept, as a brand, exists because of Andrea. It was her who said.
So her idea.
Not necessarily her idea, but it was her who said, "Run with that brand."
Okay.
Run with that brand, because we have the option of propertyandhomes.com, which I still own, and which is very dear to me. And I'm like, I'm going to call it propertyandhomes.com, and Andrew was like, no, we definitely want this just to be luxury, and she's right, as she always is. She listens to
She's going to listen to it.
just do that snippet, just in case we missed it. And she's right. Luxury, what is it?
I'll make it. That's it. But thanks for that advice, Jason. I think anyone's going to find that really useful if they're looking to start up a business. Going on to like the Dubai market, where do you think it's kind of headed at the moment?
That's a hand grenade.
Yeah.
First things first. The fundamentals of Dubai.
Yeah.
Zero crime. Zero. My car is unlocked. I bet it's unlocked. I bet the house is unlocked. I can't remember the last time I locked the office. The point that I'm making is we don't have crime in this incredible city. We've got 200 different nationalities living here harmoniously. Healthcare, world class, absolutely world class. Education, incredible. Jack and Molly were at Millfield School in Somerset, one of the finest private schools in England. And their schooling over here is, I don't want to upset Millfield, but it's probably better, to be fair. The infrastructure here is world class. I can scuba dive in the morning, I can play golf in the afternoon, I can go horse racing up in the evening, I can go to the opera house and have some culture if I wish. The lifestyle here is just incredible. If you take the best venues in the world and put them all in one place, you pretty much have Dubai. The fundamentals, therefore, of Dubai remain intact. It's a wonderful, wonderful place to live. Regrettably, we've gone through a period where there is a supply-demand matrix issue. We've got more real estate coming live into the market than possibly we have clients who want to buy it. And that's caused a little bit of a shift in real estate prices. And real estate prices since about 2014 have steadily been going the wrong way across the city. And at the moment, I feel they've been bouncing along the bottom now for probably about 2 years, would be my view, where we haven't seen very steep drops, but nevertheless, we haven't seen much shoots of recovery. So for me, the short to medium term prognosis for the city is one of a period of reflection and a period of hopefully stabilisation of prices. I think we're going to see prices down by about 10% over the next 3 years. I think that would mean that we would be probably one of the most attractive investment propositions anywhere on the planet in terms of yield return, quality of construction, and potential for capital growth. And then as we come through this period of time with the pandemic, we go into Expo 2020/21. I haven't quite worked out. I thought we would see lots of new branding for that. So we're going to see Expo 2020 delayed by a year. So we're going to see everything that we were hoping would come this October. And from there we're going to see Dubai get back to slow and modest recovery. What we don't want is we don't want boom and bust. So we don't want house prices just roaring away and then sort of crashing sort of 3 years later or 4 years later, however long through the cycle. In answer to your question, what's happening with the market? Market's busy, very, very busy, as you know. Lots of buyers coming in. I can't quite remember when I got an offer at asking price. That's the point, isn't it? I don't think I've had an offer post-pandemic. Can we call it post-pandemic?
I think we're still within the pandemic.
Are we?
Yeah.
Post-lockdown?
Yeah, post-lockdown.
So I have another PL. So post-lockdown, I don't think I've had a full asking price offer, and that's an issue. That's a huge issue. I think we have buyers who recognise opportunities in the market, who see value propositions and who are bidding accordingly. And we have vendors, sellers who feel they need to take an exit because they've been, they've lost their job or circumstances have changed. And that means that we're incredibly busy, but the market is transacting at significantly lower levels. When that data comes out, it's not going to make for pretty reading. So when the data comes out, which will be 1 month or 2 months after the transfers, it's not going to make for pretty reading. However, distressed stock is an analysis that one needs to be very cognizant of. So if you have 100 properties on the market, for example, only 10 of those properties will be distressed. So once the distressed stock has gone, that basically means there's going to be a resumption of normalness. Now the new normal, that's that horrible phrase that everyone keeps pandering about. I think the market's going to do better than we might think, actually, and I think we're just going to see a stabilisation. So if I had to give a prognosis, I would probably say prices are going to pretty much stay exactly where they are. I don't think we're going to have steep declines. And I think it's about confidence in the market, and that's really key.
You were talking obviously about long term. You don't want the boom and bust cycle. If you could put one kind of policy in that would be something that could boost the demand or improve the market and the prices in the market, not artificially to inflate the prices, but something that would work long term that you think is missing here in Dubai, what would it be?
It's not for me to criticise the government, and I'm not doing that, but I would genuinely like to see more attractive immigration protocols for Dubai. Mm-hmm. If I own this company and all of our investments in the city, but I still have to renew my visa every 2 years, and I can't have that sense of Dubai as being home, because of course it's only going to be home for a period of time, and I sometimes think that I'd quite like to see an American protocol or an American system. So in the United States, I acquired what's called an EB-5 visa, where I bought an office building in Seattle to start with. I bought an office building in Seattle, and that gave me residency rights in the United States ad infinitum. So I was a green card holder, as was my wife and children, and we were residents of the United States for however long we want to be residents for, and pay huge tax as a consequence, might I add. And what I'd like to see in Dubai is more of that long-term residency approach. The 2 years, the 5 years, the 10 years, that's great, but I don't think it gives us that sense of longevity that I think one needs when they're investing such significant sums of money into the area. And for me, we came here specifically because we loved the city, we loved the Emirates, we loved everything that it has to offer. But it was a huge decision and a huge risk, and we were very conscious that we were only residents for 2 years and then at renewal. In some respects, that has tempered my investments into the city. So in some respects, it has sort of tempered them a little bit, because we're conscious that we're not here as permanent residents. And I think that's the point that we would make. And for me, if the United Arab Emirates wants to achieve what it's looking to achieve, I wonder if that's something that I would be recommending. Mm-hmm. That you have to be the right person, of course. You have to have the right credentials, of course. I get that. But that permanent residency status, be it acquired or indeed on a point system, I think would be incredible for this country, and it would then create a significantly greater levels of confidence, and it would remove the transiency that I think damages the city, and people rent, not buy, sometimes because they're not quite sure how long they're going to be here.
And that comes with the pricing.
Yeah.
So they're worried, if I have to leave in 2 years with the volatility, maybe better to rent.
And I think that's something that I'd probably recommend. That it'd probably be something that needs to be structured very well.
Yeah.
And it has to be right. But it would then create legacy then. So you would have, Jack, my son, would be looking at the business as, okay, I'm going to go off to university and have fun and everything else, and then I'll come back and take over the family business, because that's what happens everywhere else in the world. But over here, we don't seem to have that quite so much.
Yeah, well, of course, if you say you lost your job, like situation for a lot of people at the moment, then you have to leave. You don't have the option to stay. I think the population hasn't been growing as quickly as it was before, and we were talking about the supply previously. So in order to make the demand catch up with that supply, there's obviously other factors like increasing commerce, promoting businesses, like you said, with giving easier business licenses, all of that kind of stuff. And I think that will only help to improve the market by increasing the demand of the population.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's a big thing. I think inward migration into the UAE is huge, and how they structure that and get that right, that's a big thing.
Okay, Jason. I'm wary of the time on the podcast. I think we might have to do a part 2 of this one, because I've got a lot more questions to ask you. But thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
For coming in.
Welcome.
Yeah, and I think we'll have to do a part 2 definitely. Thanks for watching or listening if you're listening on the podcast, and I'll see you on the next episode of Realtor Talk.